Welcome to Healing Wisdom, a Thursday morning talk show featuring guests sharing their stories and knowledge. We discuss the healing aspects of the arts, metaphysics, social justice, and adventure through all types of terrain. So join me, Pandora Peoples, here on WOMR 92.1 FM in Provincetown and WFMR 91.3 FM in Orleans. We're streaming worldwide at WOMR.org. Hello, 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 hello out there. I am very pleased to have my guest today with us, Denise Raney. She is a fabulous poet and an amazing woman who's been through an incredible healing journey. Welcome, Denise. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
You're the author of So, which is a poetry book. You hosted WCTV's Your Daily Gumbo Poets Corner and your cooking show Hot Dishes. You've hosted numerous open mics and open for bands with your slam poetry. And you grew up in a cult where you suffered abuse and were forced to marry at an early age. And you also survived a coma where you experienced being on the other side. So I'm really looking forward to discussing your healing journey and all these things with you. I would love for you to...
My What About It poem is a poem that I performed all over the country, and some reason they really like it. I was thinking about the world. I was thinking about politics, religion, and computers. Okay, so here goes. What about it? I have all that I need. It's true, the metaphysical continues to flow. Good things come and bad things go. And I have to think about not thinking about it, while the people around me are being programmed and they don't even know it. Online takeover. The web has its steeple and it's forwarded to at least 10 people, easily tracing the path where it goes, easily separating the sheep from the goats, easily slitting their own throats. And once you think that everything's fantastic and all you got to do is carry one piece of plastic, it'll pull the rug right out from under you. Everything will crash, yet we've done away with cash. What will you do? Can you take the heat when they're throwing money in the street? What about your priorities? You'd better get them straight or be eaten by that spider, all drunk and overweight, sitting on its haunches, political bombs it launches, where no one's thinking what if, lemmings running right off the cliff, never aware it'd come down to this propaganda all the way, lining pockets with our pay, and it's all going anyway. Yet I have all I need today, but I try not to think about it, so what about it? Can you unplug? Are you strong? The truth of the soul's never wrong. Just look with the eyes of beyond. Why follow when you can forge? Stand upright and carry that torch. Fanatics no longer can hide the truth of whose words you abide. To evolve as one under the curse, when we'll all be riding that hearse of what's worse. A group of spirits are here, and each holds the other one dear. Ancient Mayans, Nostradamus, a new world order is upon us. Will we survive? The Bible's saying end of days, the Torah is God's and holy ways, the Quran's rules and hell to pay, and it's all going anyway. Yet I have all I need right now. People are coming up with plans and devices, yet never honing in on our crisis. And while most of the world hates my nation, I find myself in Revelation as prophecies unfold. And everyone's doing just as they're told. And while I think this just isn't right, there's always this little glimmer of light that carries me through. Does that happen to you? So what about it, my friend? Can you make it through the end? Because I have all I need, and I can't even think about it. Ta-da! Here's that one. That one gets a lot of thought.
Great. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So when did you first find yourself writing poetry?
I've been writing poetry my whole entire life, even as a little girl. But as I got older and after I left the cult and I died, I actually died. I was in a coma and I died. And they brought me back. And obviously. But the poems would come to me. Like that poem that I just recited was a poem that came to me like I was living, like I was in a dream and remembering a dream. And so when I hear the poem come through, it's like remembering a dream, and I just write it down as fast as I hear it. And so I've been writing poetry like that um, for, the last 20 something years now. So
I would love for you to talk about poetry as a form of self-expression, because you said in an interview, like, don't just think it, ink it.
yeah, I did. Yep, I did. I think that the reason why writing are symbols, symbols that that form words, that in the words, and they call it spelling. It's a spell, words are a spell. And if you don't just think it, you ink it, you can write down those words. You never know where it's going to take you or where it's going to go, but it'll help you if you practice writing every day. And I remember Dan McCullough. I don't know if you know him, but he was a pretty well-known philosopher and author here on the Cape. He once told me, write like you think. And if you practice writing every day the way you think and write it down, you never know where it's going to go. You could write a song, you could write a poem, you can write a book.
I've found that writing down my dreams is really therapeutic because of the
Mm-hmm.
symbols that come to me. But when you're really in the flow with your work and you let it come to you, right?
Yes.
Consciousness style, uh, you don't have to force it.
Right.
It's not stream of consciousness. Symbols come to your mind and you incorporate them into whatever kind of writing. I feel that symbols are sort of bridge between the unconscious, the subconscious, and the conscious mind.
Agreed. Indeed.
And they hold
Yes.
a lot of power.
Sometimes I've written poems where I've started off calling in my muse, like I needed to call my muse in to write a poem because I felt like there was a poem in there, but it wouldn't come out. So I wrote a poem calling in my muse, and it ended up being about cell phones. Do you want me to do that one?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So here's a cell phone poem, and it starts with me calling in my muse. And I can feel you out of sight. And when I'm brave enough to write, you'll enter. And from the ink, my blood will pour as it screams for my soul. And something more will find me. So please fill my pen with your words divine, and I'll toss in a few just to say it is mine and will flow. And I'll write about this time that we're in, where only the righteous are accustomed to sin, and there are no losers because everyone wins. And out of fear, we're never alone, all connected with a cell phone that sorts the words we say aloud up into the great iCloud. Forever thirsty for its fine to suck the brain and drain the mind as we share. And we all do it on our own. Buy an app or change the tone. It's all the vibe. But there's so much more going on in the air, like this page to show you care, or disconnect if you dare. Because we all end up in the morgue, assimilating with the Borg on a tiny screen we can't ignore. And it points to this and shows you, points to that, and takes you where the line goes flat. And this appendage that we grew is more false than it is true. So I'd be careful if I were you, because there's so much more than the eyes can see, floating round and binary, taking you and leaving me. Tap the site until you're free. So why not try this for a day? Put it down and back away, and everything will be okay. And of this earth, participate, because everyone can learn to wait, because that's where it really is. There's that one. Boom.
Everyone can learn to wait. Going back to what you were talking about in terms of the spell aspect of poetry and of spoken word,
Mm-hmm.
I have found a lot of power in rhyme myself. And I don't write, sort of incantations or setting intention to in the form of a poem very often. But when I have, it's really powerful and I only want to use it. And of course, it's only for the better good of everyone. It's all positive. I find that it speaks to my heart, because the beat is in sync with the heart so much.
Mm-hmm.
And the rhythm is so important. Poems that sound like melodies are good too, but I think that the rhythm falls sort of into alignment with the heart and speak to the heart.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when I write a line, and in my mind I'm thinking ba-dum 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 ba-dum, and then it automatically goes da-dum 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 da-dum. And so And then the words just come. And it's a beautiful experience, and it's a blessing to be a poet after, all the things that I've survived, and came out the other end good. Like what I said when I died. Do you want to hear that story now? As I said before, I was raised in a cult, and it was very strict. And my stepfather was the leader of the organization that I was part of. He had an actual billy club that he'd be me and my sisters with. We were little girls, and between that and all kinds of abuse, every kind of abuse that you can mention, and so I knew that I would have to leave someday, but I was forced to marry, had two kids right away, right out of high school, and even though I married my friend and we tried to make it work the best that we could, we had two kids, and we were married for over 25 years. And then I had to leave. I had to leave because of I tried to bring out the abuse, and I was punished for lying. They my real father, who happened to commit suicide when I was 7, told me, I remember him told me, Nisi, called me Nisi, saying, Nisi, never cut your hair. And every time I got in trouble with my stepfather, he chopped my hair off. Just was a thing that he did. He was just cruel and mean and evil. And I learned how to read a room. I learned how to read him. And I knew one day I'd have to get out. And when my kids were in their late teens, I made the jump, like going to a diving board and going up to the highest diving board there is and just blocking your nose and jumping. And that's how I did to leave. In my marriage was also falling apart at that time. So it was really, I was about to lose, and I did lose everyone I knew and loved, except for my two children, at that time, because I hadn't made friends outside of the organization, and so I knew that everyone I knew and loved would never speak to me again. And that shunning was very cruel, and it broke my heart. It literally broke my heart. And the lungs are the organ that process grief. And my lungs filled with what they said it was like fluffernutter, that they filled up, and it was in one day. I thought I was getting a flu, and the next thing you know, I died, and I felt myself die. When I was in the emergency room, I felt myself lift out of my whole body, and then everything was beige. There wasn't like a ceiling or a floor, but it was just beige. And then I kind of sensed it and felt it and heard it before I saw it, like energy coming this way, like zzz. And then there was a woman, and she was standing there, and she had long, wavy, dark hair, and she's like, Denise, Denise, hey, hey, my name is Liz, or something like that. And she goes, I'm here to help you, okay? And she said, do you want to come with me? And she put her hand out like this. And for some reason, because I'm blinking my eyes and can't believe that I'm in this situation, I blinked my eyes and I looked at her and I went, nah. And she went, oh, that's okay. That's all right. And I felt myself fall right back into my body. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yep.
For those just joining us, we're speaking with poet Denise Raney about her near-death experience that she had, or death experience during her coma. How long ago was that?
That was in 2000. So it'd be 24 years ago, this August 2nd, that happened. And it's funny because I used to run an antique shop on Nantucket. And when my son was 9 years old, we were walking along the cobblestone streets of Main Street there in downtown Nantucket. And he said to me, now, being in the cult, we weren't allowed to think about anything else other than what we were taught. And for my son to tell me this went away from what we were taught. And he said, Mom, I have something important to tell you. He said, I think that I was born to save you. And I was just like, pat him on the head. Okay, that's all right. That's nice. That's cute. But he was like, no, really, Mom, I really think that I'm born to save you. So then the years went by. We didn't tell anybody because, we could get in trouble for that. When he got older, And he was taller than me. He's like, "Don't forget, Mom, I was born to save you." And then it was 10 years later when he was 19 years old and I was in the coma, and he was a model for Nautica jeans at the time. And he had his little spiked out hair and his, he was good look. He's a good looking boy. And he had a full head of hair. When I was 10 days in the coma, my son wasn't thinking, I'm going to save my mother. He just said he woke up that morning and said, I don't know what I'm going to do, but my mom's been sick long enough. And he went into, I was on 100% life support at New England Medical. He came in and he put his hands on my chest and he poured all the love that he had for me out of him and into me. And he felt it leave his body. And he said it was like a lightning bolt going right through the top of his head and out his hands into my body. And the next day I woke up and everyone was amazed. The doctors were amazed. Everyone was amazed. And I remember when I woke up, because you don't know you're in a coma when you're in a coma. You want to wake up and you can't. And that was horrible. It was absolutely a horrible 10 days because I was dreaming I was being abducted by aliens. They were stealing my organs because they were in my heart. They were in my, I was intubated. It was terrible. And then they had the TV going during the day, which I don't watch TV. And even though I've been on TV and was hosted shows for TV, I'm not into watching TV. They'd have game shows on. I would dream that I was trapped in a game show and couldn't get out of the game show. But when I woke up, I remember I was angry. I was really mad and very distressful of the nurse that was there. I didn't believe a word she said. She said, "You were really sick. You're in the hospital." And then my son, he came into the room and his eyes were so big and he looked right in my face and he said, "Mom, I saved you." And he did. And within 2 weeks, he was bald, and he's bald till this day. Round, beautiful, bald head. And he lost all his hair, just fell out within 2 weeks after that. So, yeah, it was quite the thing. Yeah.
Amazing. So he was
Mm.
just a conduit. And that's not to say he doesn't have innate healing abilities, but he was a conduit for something much bigger
He
than
sure was. He sure was. I wrote about it. Do you want to hear the poem?
I do. I do.
Okay. This one's called I Died When I Was 45. I actually died when I was 39, but I always thought that I was going to die when I was 45, so I named it that, 45. A vision I had when I was a child, a little redhead girl, all spunky and wild, lying back on a summer's lawn, meeting my God in the vast yawn of white puffy clouds. And I heard a voice say, "You're going to die when you're 45." Now, being so young, I was okay with that. Now, the years went on by, and boy, what a ride. Then I died. I sensed it was coming all along, so I wrote and I wrote, and I sang the sad songs as I scripted the way with dirges and prose. How I found the punchline, nobody knows but my God, who killed me. And then let me see, all very, very lovingly, the metamorphosis of my soul, a spirit that's seasoned and spicy and bold and battered in all that I strive as I passed away at 45. And I'm so thankful that I never gave up. My life's water was there and I drank a cup. Now I savor the essence of this new birth and I'll live my next life for all it is worth as one with the one who brought me through, lying back on the grass, all moistened with dew. A new book awaits, and blank is its verse. Yet the life that I led was never a curse, and I'm so elated to be alive after I died at 45. So there's that one.
That's great. I wanted to ask you about the experiences that you were having a little bit more in depth while you were in the coma. Did you get a sense of passing time, or was
No,
it like this ongoing nightmare?
ongoing nightmare for 10 days. It was terrible. My kids said that they would come in and see me, and when they would talk to me and hold me, they said my bottom lip would tremble. And when they had to say goodbye, they could see that my bottom lip was really like I was going to cry, but the only thing I remember from being in the coma was, wanting to wake up and can't.
And it's worth saying because it's kind of typical that people put televisions on when people are unable to speak or communicate or aren't fully, in nursing homes and in hospitals.
Yeah.
Like
They should put music on. They should find, if they had just put like my favorite radio station on or just my favorite CDs or anything at that time, it would have been so much better for me. So if you know of anyone who's in a coma, play nice music for them because they definitely can hear. Because I heard the game shows and that was horrible. I know.
Yeah, yeah. When you were a child, you say that you had, been writing poetry. Can you talk about was that your primary sort of self-soothing that you did? What ways do you think that you were able to maintain your wholeness within during that whole
Going through the whole
for
thing.
anyone
Well,
joining a cult? She was
I had Yes, I have many sisters, but I was always like the oldest because I was the one that, took the lead and protected my sisters the best that I could. And I would have to self-soothe myself, and in writing helped, but of course we were always we were trained to write and read and really well, but mostly the Bible, their version of the Bible anyway. And so I just started writing, and I remember I when I was first married, I was so incredibly depressed and sad and everything because of everything that had happened to me. My hair being cut off just before, my high school pictures, and the all the drama that I was going through still with the organization. And I remember my doc me on Valium to try and relax me. And I remember I was like 19 years old and I wrote this poem about Valium. You want to hear that one? All right. That
absolutely
one.
yes.
Okay. That one is, please hand me my pills, the ones for my head. The demons betrayed me. They're really not dead. They've snuck up behind me. Horizons are vast to poke me with needles that recall my past. I'm remembering things I'd rather not known. So hand me my pills, please, and leave me alone to dwell in my thoughts as I rise above and try not to hurt the ones that I love. So I wrote that when I was really young, you know, and I ended up dumping all the pills. My husband dumped all the pills down the drain at that time. That's what he did. He's like, no more. Yeah.
Wow.
Then
So
I got into TV and all that.
yeah, so that was through poetry that you did. Can you talk about that?
Yep, I got invited to be a guest on this morning talk show on WCTV. It's a local cable station, and they had this morning talk show, Your Daily Gumbo, and they asked me to come on and do some of my poetry. And then when the show was done, they asked if I would do traffic and weather. So I had so much fun doing the show, and I said, "Sure, I'll do traffic and weather." So I started off doing traffic and weather on this 2-hour morning talk show, Monday through Friday. It was really, really fun. And then I ended up co-hosting it, and then they wanted me to have my own cooking show. So I had my own cooking show. And then I did my own Poets Corner, where I would do it there. And I'd also do it in different little cafes. And I could bring the TV crew with me to record it, and they'd play it on the show.
Yeah, I have to say, I used to do spoken word in Los Angeles and was part of various circles of performers. I think that there's nothing quite like that experience in terms of how it brings all kinds of people from all walks of life and all ages and all experiences who are all interested in telling something about their experience, and
Yeah.
the performances can run the whole gamut of different philosophies and different ways of thinking and expressing. And you never know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful kind of unorchestrated, unorganized chaos.
Mm-hmm. Oh
Sometimes,
yes.
depending.
I've done spoken word for the Arts Alive in Falmouth for many years. I did that spoken word, and that just for a half an hour, just telling different poems. People just would stop in their tracks because some of the poems they could really relate to. You know, it was good.
I just think that there's nothing like different people from a community coming together to experience something that is completely authentic and sometimes unfiltered.
Authentic and unfiltered. It's
Yeah.
true. I've been part of a lot of poetry slams where, if there was a young child in the room, I'd have to block his ears because some that talk about unfiltered. Yeah. So they're a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun to do open mics, but I got away from it now so for people who know me, this is the first time I've been doing any kind of poetry in public in years because I got really sick, and it was in my gut, and I had surgery that went awry, and I had to be reopened up, and this was 3 years ago. I had an open wound for 2 months. I was opened, and nurses come in daily to change the wound, and it was just an awful, awful experience. Like I've been through a lot of awful experiences, and I guess that's what we're talking about today is the different awful experiences that I went through. But I've also had some really great friends, and my kids have been really great and wonderful. And so to help me through everything, and that in my own personal connection that I have with what I call the universe. Every day I wake up and it's got me by my hand. I just like, what kind of adventure are we going to have today? I always have an adventure every day. It's different.
As the survivor of this coma, and also it was an infection that you had.
Yeah, it ended up getting infected. Yeah. Yeah, that was terrible. It was really terrible. Yeah, and it changed me because it your gut is your second brain, and mine just kind of went through the blender on this one. It definitely slowed me down, and I definitely went into a cave to hide. And this is really my first time coming out of the cave. And you have helped me so much with your yoga classes that I go to, and your encouragement to speak it out. I appreciate it.
Well, it's been a pleasure getting to know you. Oh, thank you, Denise Raney. Well, it's a pleasure, and I'm so happy that you're sharing your poetry. I think it's very wonderful to hear about your healing journey.
Mm-hmm.
You've been listening to Healing Wisdom at Outermost Radio. All of our shows are podcasts at WOMR.org. Also check out healingwisdomradioshow.com and contact me at pandora@WOMR.org. WOMR.org. Our theme music is provided by Mason. You can find her website at masonmusic.com. That's MAESYN